My name is Cornell West, and I am a professor of African American Studies and Culture at the Harvard University in Massachusetts. I'm here today in this video segment to speak with you about African American culture, namely jazz of the 1930s and 40s, and how it affected this African American culture, namely the book Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. Now, what is jazz, you ask? Oh, that is not an elementary question, to say the least. It's actually quite a convoluted statement consisting of many signatures and interminglings of African American culture and history. It all begins with the remunerative history when the white man only gave a damn about his precocious characteristics of the black ethnicity. In this vitriolic environment, slaves were dragooned to sing the response to the slave master, what is known as the call and response format. For example, slave master would sing some line or scream some line to the workers, the slaves, in the fields, and they would often answer back with some cutting or disdainful, frustrated response. Now, this idea soon transmogrified into spirituals, where a priest would sing a verse, and the attendants of the mass would respond with a chorus. Essentially, the blacks would descant about the problems with a sacrosanct theme. They would say their frustrations, their anger, as they did in the fields, only now in the churches, much later on in American history. During the period of emancipation by our great Abraham Lincoln, African Americans had a very difficult time transitioning into the new way of life, and they would start to sing about their hindrances with a humorous and raunchy tone. Now, the actual nascency of jazz was due to the integration of European influence into this blues genre. As I said before, the raunchy tone, the humorous tone was blues, and the European influence makes it jazz. Now, for this reason, New Orleans is accredited with the birthplace of jazz, the blues theme with the European influence, jazz, because of the history of the Creoles, the native people of the New Orleans area, as they are called.
You slave heathens better shuck that corn.
Gotta shuck that corn to eat tonight.
Yeah, shuck all the corn.
Gotta shuck that corn to eat tonight.
You better shuck it, there won't be no better water.
Gotta shuck that corn to eat tonight.
Yeah, boy, shuck the corn.
Get in there nice and be like.
Gotta shuck that corn to eat tonight. Lord, I'm hungry. Jesus saved my soul. I'm gonna let it shine. Jesus saved my soul. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Voice on the hope on.
Now, behind every great piece of jazz music is a great jazz musician. Such artists such as Tatum, Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington, all achieved fame among the period of the 30s and 40s in jazz music, of course. Now, to begin, Tatum, he was a great piano player and scat singer of the period, known for his abandoning melodies and improvisations. He innovated reharmonies in such a way that he changed the actual chord progressions. This is how he became famous. Now, next, Louis Armstrong, quite famous jazz musician. He was a trumpeter, trumpet player. His music was filled with joyous and inspiring melodies. He almost single-handedly created the role of the jazz soloist with his trumpeteering. He created an art form that had tremendous possibilities for individual expression, improvisation. It was amazing. Also, now there's no forgetting Duke Ellington, another famous jazz musician. One of his songs changed the era. It don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swang. Song title livens me up myself. Now, he was able to bridge the gap between jazz and other genres. Quite a large feat, if you were to inquire me. Yes. He was extraordinary at adapting melodies with improvisation. Now, of course, these three artists changed the face of jazz, created jazz in some respects, and jazz itself owes itself to these three people: Tatum, Armstrong, Ellington.
Don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing.
I'm a tugboat by the river. I see my bag.
Now, to shift to the next part of our discussion, which is how jazz music affected black culture and the black identity, as it did have a great and profound effect. Now, jazz music in the early part of the 20th century created a great sense of community and cohesivity among the African Americans. Jazz allowed a man in Louisiana, southern part of America, the ability to find commonalities with a Negro man in Chicago and bridge the gap between them. I often enjoy this aspect that two men from different parts of the country can find commonalities, not just their blackness, but their music, the jazz. But another part of jazz, it also gave the average Negro individual a chance to make himself known. Any of the famous jazz artists of the period are perfect examples of this. Louis Armstrong, Duke Ellington. Woo, yeah! Great music. I love it. Now, jazz would allow them acceptance in America. The average white person would buy the music regularly, regardless of their racist or segregationist beliefs, if they had any. It allowed the average black man to transform that ideology among the black community, shifting the direction from the deep, emotional, and powerful feelings of African Americans, and they were finally able to move on from racism, from what had kept them down, the hatred, the angst, the anger, the frustration, and to rejoice in creativity and community. Yes. Now, as I've stated before, jazz had a deeply profound effect on black culture and the black identity. Gave them voice, power, prosperity. One of the most prime and obvious of examples of this fact is the writings of the great author Ralph Ellison, specifically his masterpiece and, unfortunately, only published book, Invisible Man. The book used jazz in such a way that it came to envelop the novel. Jazz's impact can be seen in specific scenes, but also in the flow and direction of the book. For example, in one of the opening scenes, the narrator is witnessed listening to jazz. Puts on a jazz record, Louis Armstrong. The narrator himself says that the music impelled him to act. It caused him to act. Forced him. It gave him purpose, direction, opened his eyes. Also, within Ralph's pages, we see numerous allusions to jazz musicians and jazz pieces. He mentioned specifically Louis Armstrong's piece, What Did I Do to Be So Black and Blue? Now, I love the title of this piece of music, because it's not what did I do to be so black and blue as in bruises, black and blue blues, but it's what did I do to be so black in his skin color and blue in his heart, his sadness. It's a very profound statement. Now, he includes this piece of work of Louis Armstrong to represent the dichotomy of the character's emotions. Ellison also used the language of music throughout the novel to characterize the deep meaning of the scene. Ralph uses not only jazz, but also blues and gospel, which are certain forerunners of jazz, to cut to the core of the novel. They're also used as tools by which the reader sees what is being said. Jazz is used as the backdrop, environment, atmosphere, ambiance, through which all these events occur and happen in the book Invisible Man. The jazz is a symbol, the symbol, that is the beauty of black life, which is what Ralph Ellison is trying to communicate in his book, The Beauty of Black Life. Jazz is the tool to communicate this core message.
I am an invisible man.
Now, in writing, Ellison approached his book, Invisible Man, as the way any jazz musician would approach their writing of a new work of art. His style emulates the improvisational format of the art of jazz. And the musician becomes great by practicing other famous musicians' work, note for note, verse for verse. And the style of these other artists, reiterated in their own way, makes their own music. Thus, jazz becomes a communal art with cohesivity, community. It incorporates from all parts of the world. Now, jazz. Now, Ellison, a great jazz man himself, used this practice as a young, unexperienced writer. He would literally copy down, word for word, paragraph for paragraph, letter for letter, the writings of other authors such as Hemingway, Twain, Melville, Hawthorne. This is how he became great, how he wrote Invisible Man. To conclude our present discussion today about jazz in the 30s and 40s, I would like to reiterate what I have spoken about before. Now, we began with the evolution of jazz, how it came to be, from the work song, spirituals, blues, into the jazz we know. Now, yes. We then talked about the numerous jazz musicians of the period that achieved fame of Ellington, Armstrong, Tatum, yes. We then spoke about how jazz affected black culture, identity, ideologies, ideals. Yes. Gave them power, liberated them from white oppression. We incorporated this fact into Invisible Man, Ralph Ellison's work. He uses jazz in the flow and direction of the book, an illusion, to write his novel, his masterpiece. As a black man myself, lover of jazz, scholar of African American culture and identity, I would like to thank you for participating in and listening to this discussion on jazz music in the 30s and 40s. It has been lovely. Thank you.